The Commissar returned to Kyiv, a legendary film that was shot in Ukraine. I do not have this movie. We begged for it in Mosfilm, and the director of Mosfilm, my good friend, gave it to me. I asked him. He says, why? I say, I want to watch it. I did not tell him that I went to Kyiv with this movie, because I'll have to go back there. How his movie became a reference book in all film academies of the world. How the Ukrainian public met the main anti-war film. Watch next in the program. This film is very dear to me. I considered him a truly outstanding artist. To create only one movie in his life and to become famous, what kind of movie should it be? You must love your job, and I did. I have always enjoyed my work. I got a great deal of satisfaction from helping people, and it was fun. The famous film that conquered the world but is still in disgrace in his homeland in Russia is today 50 years old. Most of its participants are not alive, but time justly put everything in its place. Hundreds of people, from peers of the director himself to young up-and-coming filmmakers, crowded in the Kyiv House of Cinema. Here it is a well-deserved sellout. The grateful Ukrainian audience triumphantly welcomed the master. This film is eternal, about the most human things. I think this film will be understood. For example, director Taras Tkachenko said he teaches his children with this film. This is his favorite movie. One would think, how can a film with a story about the days gone by in the Civil War, a film shot half a century ago, surprise the modern viewer? But even for the famous actress Larisa Kadochnikova, the film and the meeting with the legendary director were a true revelation and an example of unbending will. I did not see him, I just heard about him very much. Well, I saw the movie once, then it just struck me. I realized that this is an incredibly talented person, but he was abroad, he lived in Germany. And when they announced that Askoldov was coming, I certainly came running. And I saw immediately that this is a great personality, and he seemed to me extraordinarily beautiful. Such a thoroughbred one, such a Slav who moved to Europe, and this blending turned out to be some incredibly attractive force, an artist, a master. Larisa Kadochnikova believes the arrival of Askoldov in Ukraine with this film is symbolic. The movie is about the events of the distant past during the Civil War in the 1920s. European film critics have long recognized it as the most anti-war film in the world, and today it is not irrelevant or obsolete. People of different nationalities, I do not care at all whether they're Jews or whatever nationality they are, the way they adopted this woman and the way they cared about this child. This is an amazing quality. The role is amazingly played. I say just all the brilliant works. And I was sitting, I was panting with delight. This is today, nothing is outdated. This is the situation which exists today in Ukraine. The screenplay was written by Askoldov based on the story of the disgraced writer Vasily Grisman in the town of Berdichev. The action takes place in a small provincial town, which the Red Army enters. Here it turns out that the unbending Commissar woman, Vavilova, has to give birth to a child. The fighters cannot wait for their Commissar, so they decided to leave her in a large Jewish family of tinker named Yefim Magazinik, who wants to save his family and survive in the soulless grinding machine of the war. Actor Roland Bykov, who performs this role, in the opinion of the director, has risen to the heights of universal love and forgiveness. When we did the movie, the word Jew was a euphemism. You cannot read anywhere that there were Jews. There was a lot of them in our studio, but there were not, do you understand? Moreover, what is most striking, that's what you can make a tragic picture. They did not want this film. They wrote denunciations. Roland Bykov says, Rabbi called me and chastised for why I was so dirty. I explained to him that there is a civil war and I do not have a suit. I have no tie. And in general, everything is a little, I would say, deeper. The movie is not just about the fate of the Jews, or how good they are, or that they are unhappy. Look at the strength of the spirit of this family. It's incredible, I think. Anyway, I thought so. I wanted them to be loved. Alexander Askoldov was born in Moscow, but he spent his childhood in Kyiv, where his father and mother were arrested by the NKVD. The little Sasha was rescued by his parents' friends, a Jewish family who lived in Podil. Thousands of threads, thousands of strings. It is just my understanding of justice, my understanding that you still have to see a human being in every person and then understand them. A contemporary audience in a democratic society has long grown accustomed to openness. But in 1967, after closed viewing, the Goskino Commission immediately banned the film. Its director was accused of anti-Sovietism and subjected to legal proceedings, bullying. That all happened. I did not exist. I was expelled from the Communist Party. I was fired from my job, and I could not work for 20 years. They did not let me do anything. It's a pity, because they stole 20 years of my life for no reason at all, and they were all indifferent. Well, it happened so. What could I do? I cannot even imagine anything at all there, except for the tremendous relationship of different nations to each other. Saving each other is absolutely biblical orthodox thing. I do not understand why they could ban this movie. In fact, there are no words about what they did with it. And I went to the cinema propaganda office, the Znania community, and just about everywhere, speaking like in a prayer about Commissar at each meeting, and read the monologues from the film. I felt I had to do this. But the most offensive for the director was the reaction of his colleagues. The Commissar was shown only once in September 1967, where it was watched under the whistling, trampling and hooting. Then the life of Askoldov turned into a real nightmare. The movie was not accepted, the movie was not understood. The picture created a furor, and there were various reasons for this. I remember only those who understood and who did everything that they could have humanly done, even if they simply phoned and gave their support. These are wonderful people. Among them were Tolstonogov, Mikhail Ilyich Rom, my great friend Vladimir Pavlovich Basov, Sergei Apollinarovich Gerasimov. The most tragic fate of our cinema is Askoldov, said Yuri Norstein, a famous animator, a friend of the disgraced director. Yes, Norstein said so. By the way, he saw him off in Moscow at the railway station. So much talent is put into this film that this art will remain for a long time. And for the filmmakers, it is a springboard for taking all these ideas, thoughts, and this love for humanity. The Ukrainian audience asked why the film was snubbed for half a century. In fact, the essence of the film is that even in the most monstrous circumstances, people remain people. It's about different things. It's about a lot. It is about a woman. It is about children. It is about hopes, despair. It is about friendship, about betrayal. It is about everything. This film is a curse to the war, first of all. From the point of view of today, the film is elementary. It is interesting only for the acting of remarkable, unique actors. First of all, these are, of course, Nona Martikova and Volan Bykov, and also Vasily Shukshin and Ukrainian actress Raisa Nedashkivska.
Вы слышите, она уснула. Если кто из вас пикнет ему голову, то рушу так живо.
He's a very interesting artist. His tips. I realized he really needed me to warm him up in some way. I think he knows how to work with actors, because what Raya did, what Bykov did, what Mordikova did, what grand designs she had. I know her very well. She's a brilliant actress, tragic, powerful. She's a nation in and of herself. What a screenplay, what an essence. It's just a holy family. He did not just call her Maria. After all, she is Bela in Grossman's novel. He decided to call her Maria.
А тут он назвал ее Марией.
Raisa Nedashkivska did not get the role of Maria immediately. First, Askoldov did not like her. He did not see in her that Jewish mother of many children who is ready to sacrifice herself for the sake of her neighbor.
Ефим! У нас родился мальчик.
But with Nona Mordukova, already a well-known actress, things did not go well from the very beginning. The shooting was very difficult. There was another actress, and with me, Nona gave me a hostile reception. Later we became very good friends already at the end, especially after she did not get Nika. When they announced me, she was happy. I woke up and cannot forget this moment. I am so grateful to her for the highest reward in my life. This is Nona.
Я настолько ей благодарна. Это высшая награда в моей жизни. Это Нона.
Having met in 1967 at the shooting in Tsurupinsk, the actresses became lifelong friends. Mordukova was born in the Donbass, so she knew Ukrainian culture well, just like Roland Bykov, who was born in Kyiv. Nedashkivska recalled, Nona Mordukova played not a role, not time, but a whole era. This role glorified her all over the world, and the actress entered the top 10 of outstanding actresses of the 20th century. This is a super movie. It should have been released from the very beginning. It would have been a celebration at that very moment. Alexander Askoldov said that he was trying to show a completely different civil war. In his opinion, this was the most terrible fratricidal act between people. My father was, as they are writing today, a hero of the Civil War. Previously, this war was surrounded by a halo of ecstasy, and today it is finally understood that civil war is the most terrible thing that persecutes humanity, because there can be no winners in this war. It is probably the worst manifestation of human nature, when a human being turns into a senseless animal, a ruthless beast, and sows death around itself. The world fame of the film Commissar outstripped its popularity in its home country, where up until 1987 the movie was strictly forbidden. And only thanks to the intervention of world celebrities such as Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Robert De Niro, Federico Fellini, Giuseppe De Santis, and others, the film made it to the big screen.
Чё смеешься?
Can you imagine? This movie is the most famous Russian film in the world. There is no country that would not have bought this picture. This movie should not have been released in our country. There was the Perestroika festival held in Moscow in 1987, and Fellini arrived and everyone came there. And you know, we showed this film everywhere. I may be wrong, but after seeing the film, it seemed to me that people became humans. For me, it's a wonderful gift. Many of those who came to the House of Cinema in Kyiv to meet the legendary director had already seen the film Commissar. But in the reality of these times, the film opened people's eyes to new sides of humanity. I was still thinking about my motherland. Do you know how they watched the movie in the US Congress? After watching it, all the members of Congress stood up and applauded. But despite all the troubles, the director considers himself to be a happy man. At his downtime in cinema, he did not stop. He found himself in the theater. He has a large number of European prizes and is a professor of 7 different universities. And so it happened when they finally released the film and the whole world started talking about it. This film is not out of date for a second. The most amazing thing about this movie, despite the fact that dirt, poverty and the death of many people are shown, is that there is something more important and deep in it that inspires faith in life. And at the same time, there is a deep light of the soul in this picture. That seems to me this is the basis in this film. There is some, my God, how wonderful they are. To meet such people that would support you in everything you do, everywhere, they become close and dear. Fate connected Alexander Askoldov with Ukraine very tightly. Not only his childhood passed in Kyiv, he not only shot his own film, which became a legend in Kamenets-Podilsky and near Kherson, he's still striving to the banks of the Dnipro as if returning to his youth. But the main things are conversation and joy of communication with a grateful audience.
Жили мы на даче, снимали дачу в Плютах. И туда мы ездили. Вот единственное благо было,
And we lived in a country house. We rented a cottage in Pluty, and we went there. That's the only blessing at the Bolshevik factory. We got there on a large boat floating down the Dnipro. I was 5 years old then, and I remember everything. I remember how we stood on the deck, and I held onto these shining handrails. There was a wild island in the middle of the Dnipro. We landed on this white sand, we walked, and then the sand spilled over.
А потом песок засыпался. Это я все помню.